I'm Christopher Carter, your host of the Locked On Steelers podcast, and this is a Locked On Steelers update. Breaking news: the Steelers, according to Adam Schefter, and were confirmed by several different people on the Steelers are trading for Allen Robinson, the second wide receiver from the Los Angeles Rams, barring that he does pass their physical test. Now, Allen Robinson did suffer a season-ending injury in November of this past season. He had a foot injury, as a pedal foot fracture was the exact name of the injury, but he brings to the Steelers, if he passes his physical, an experienced wide receiver. So we're going to take this shorter episode, this breaking news update, to talk about all the different factors that I think play into this decision. So check out the Locked On Steelers podcast. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, YouTube, all of that. But let's give you a rundown on Allen Robinson. First and foremost, this guy's 30 years old. He's about 6'3", 211. He is a bigger bodied wide receiver who I think is going to be able to give the Steelers another veteran presence in the wide receiver room next to Diontae Johnson. And then you have the two second-year players in George Pickens and Calvin Austin. The question will be, where do you put Allen Robinson with those lineups? Because you're not taking Diontae Johnson off the field. You're not taking George Pickens off the field. And Allen Robinson, in his last 2 years, split between the Rams and the Bears. He played less than 30% of his time in the slot. So would this be asking the veteran to move towards the slot? Is this moving someone else to the slot? What would the Steelers be willing to do with him? It also then jumps into the question we'll get later about what does this do for the Steelers' draft plans at wide receiver, because now you're adding an NFL vet. But let's also talk about the money here. We don't know the compensation for the trade just yet as I'm recording this. This literally came out within less than an hour since I'm recording this, so we're still waiting to hear what the Steelers had to give up for the Rams to get Allen Robinson. Now, the Allen Robinson's contract with the Rams is why they're trying to get rid of him. Allen Robinson hasn't worked out for them. They're trying to figure out what their future is as far as their salary cap. They signed him to a deal that made him an $18 million cap hit for them this past season. His current contract with them would have run out in 2026 or 2024, actually, but with 2 extra void years on top, with money that's owed to that'd be owed to him. Adam Schefter reports that $5 million of Allen Robinson's $10 million guaranteed in this year's contract have already been paid to him, and that the Steelers will be on the hook for paying be on the hook for paying at least a portion of that other 10. And so that is a big question as far as what are the Steelers going to be financially responsible for. Now, typically in a trade, the team that is trading away the player holds on to the guaranteed money that they promised the player, and then the other team assumes the rest. The Steelers are not going to be paying Allen Robinson $18.5 million in 2024, as if that's what he would be slated to be as a cap hit under his current contract. I'd anticipate that the Steelers probably take Robinson. They probably pay less than that $10 million mark, and they negotiate a new type of contract with him that either keeps him on board for another year or so, or spreads this money out a little bit further so that they can bring him on. But it's an interesting move by Omar Khan, to say the least, because it shows that Steelers are still being aggressive and still adding to a wide receiver room. And maybe they're saying, hey, you know what? We want to go get other positions in the NFL draft, because to me, you don't make this trade if you're confident that you're going to get a Jordan Addison or a Zay Flowers or a Quentin Johnson, any of those top guys that we've talked about, Jackson Smith and Jigba, any of those top guys we've talked about being either a first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick, and being one of those guys. Now, I still wouldn't put it out of the range for them to maybe get one in the third round and maybe get one in the fourth, but I think that all those possibilities are kind of less now, because you have Allen Robinson along with Pickens and Johnson, and you still have Calvin Austin, who you've yet to see play yet because he suffered a season-ending injury in training camp. And again, they'll still probably add to this room somehow in the draft, maybe if the 4th or 7th round pick there. But I think Allen Robinson, it's an interesting move to bring him in. And the question will be, can he bring the goods? Because Allen Robinson hasn't produced in some time for the Pittsburgh for any team in the NFL. And the Rams last year, he only played in 10 games before he was out for the season, caught 33 of 52 passes for only 339 yards, did have 3 touchdowns. The year before that with Chicago, started in 11 games that season, caught 38 of 66 passes for 410 yards, only 1 touchdown. Not great numbers if you look through all those, and not worth as much money. Now, I will say this. Quarterback play was absolutely part of those situations, because with the Rams, you had Baker Mayfield and all sorts of other numbers of quarterbacks who played for the Rams last year when Matt Stafford got hurt. And for the Bears, that was Justin Fields' rookie season. And we're still looking at, how that played out for them that year. And Allen Robinson being a vet there, was ready to move on, I guess, to his next team. But again, when I look at Allen Robinson as he is now, the question is, can he get back to where he was? Because when he was first signed to the Bears, his second and third year with the team, he had over 1,000 yards receiving in those years. And of course, Mitch Trubisky, there's a connection there as far as, a backup quarterback for the Steelers now with a depth wide receiver, that they're trading for. His best season was undoubtedly his second year in the league, where in 2015 for the Jaguars, he had 1,400 yards receiving and 14 touchdowns. The Steelers aren't going to be expecting that of him. I think what the Steelers are going to be expecting out of him is becoming a reliable presence, maybe in the middle part of the field for Kenny Pickett. As Allen Robinson's not a burner, he's not a guy that's going to beat you super deep with his speed. He's going to try to probably make bigger, tougher combat catches over the middle, get open in smart ways, be a versatile veteran that I think gives Kenny Pickett some interesting opportunities, and gives the Steelers more passing balance with their receivers that they can trust to be available. Calvin Austin, whereas everyone's excited about him, like I said, we haven't seen him play. He's a guy that I think you can be confident that he's going to be effective, but maybe you still think that he's going to have a ladder to climb to get to be a more reliable receiver on every play sets. Now, Diontae Johnson, is your number one. George Pickens, is your number two, and you hope that someday he becomes your number one. But giving you an Allen Robinson, at least gives you another option for if one of those guys goes down, you plug him in, and you at least have another veteran presence who can know his role, play into the offense, and do what you're coaching him to do. And again, all this is barring, he makes sure that he does pass his physical after his foot surgery from last November. But all in all, this signals that Omar Khan's still willing to be aggressive. We're still waiting to hear the actual final financial numbers of what it will be with the Steelers and the compensation. As far as what they gave up, I can't imagine that they'd give up a high pick at this point. To me, this seems more like a salary dump for the Rams. The Steelers might not have had to pay too much for Allen Robinson. So because they're going to be taking on his salary, this is more of a helping the Rams clear out his salary when he didn't work with the team, and they're trying to rebuild a few things over there in Los Angeles. So for Allen Robinson, again, I think the Steelers, it's going to be a question of what did they give up in the draft and how much are they paying for as far as the salary cap numbers for this upcoming season. Because if I look at the Steelers and I see their current salary cap situation, they have about $9.6 million in cap space for this year. So if Allen Robinson is even taking up, $7 million, let's say that's the number that they negotiate that they're going to take on for this year, that's still not going to leave the Steelers with a whole lot of space to sign their rookie class and to have that space that we know that they love to have throughout the season in case of emergencies, break glass, have money to pay for veteran because such and such players got hurt. So all that to be said, the Steelers still making moves, still filling out the roster. Lots to go over with how this will impact the team. I'll have more on that with our Wednesday episode of the Locked On Steelers podcast that will feature Alan Saunders. We'll talk about this and give our top 10 rankings of the offensive tackles of this NFL draft class. All that and more with the Locked On Steelers podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been a breaking news update from your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques, and check out this show, Locked On Steelers, all Monday through Friday, all week long, as we break things down, as well as we give you these type of breaking news updates when they happen. We hope everyone's having a great Tuesday out there. We'll see you again for the Wednesday episode right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.